Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle Ferguson and I'm the crochet pattern designer of Two Brothers Blanket. Today I want to share some tips and tricks for you as you crochet the Maxwell Sweater. The Maxwell Sweater is a men's crochet sweater pattern. It is a lightweight, super casual and comfortable V-neck sweater for the men in your life. This pattern uses fingering weight yarn. I used We Crochet Stroll, which is a fingering weight. I used the colorway Dove Heather. This yarn is 75% superwash merino wool and 25% nylon. It says to machine wash cold and tumble dry low. So it can be washed in the machine. And we're going to do a gauge swatch so I can show you how the stitches work. I do highly recommend you wash your gauge swatch to see how your yarn works. This yarn, since it is a superwash merino wool, will expand after being washed or being wet if you block it, but it will go back to its original size in the dryer. I always recommend for yarns like this with the wool in it, you can wash it in the machine if that's what the yarn says, but then dry it on low in increments of 10 to 20 minutes to get back to the original size and shape. You don't want it to shrink up too much. So I do recommend that. I do recommend you block your gauge swatch or wash it to see how much it expands to give you an idea of what your garment will do once it is has been washed. So I also have a G 4mm crochet hook here. This is what I use to meet gauge. You're going to want to check your gauge and determine what hook size to use by measuring your gauge and checking your gauge. So, but that's the one I am using. I'll link both the yarn and the hook that I've used in the description for you along with the pattern. Okay, next I want to talk about sizing before we get into it. So this pattern comes in sizes, men's sizes small through 5X. So there's 8 sizes included in the pattern, instructions for all 8 sizes. I want to talk about how to choose the right size. So I have a free complete guide that talks about this, but I want to mention it a little bit here. For men, if you're making this for a man, you want to check their shoulder to shoulder measurements first. That is the measurement you're going to want to go off of. Men have broad shoulders, and sometimes their shoulder measurements, the width of their shoulder or their shoulder circumference even, can be bigger than their chest. Oftentimes, it is bigger than their chest circumference. So you're going to want to measure shoulder to shoulder, and I'll post a picture here of what that looks like. And if that size falls into a large, let's say it falls into a large, but their chest circumference falls into a medium, go with the large size. You're going to want to size up and size to the shoulder and shoulder to shoulder measurement rather than the chest circumference, or as for women, we call it the bust circumference. And that's usually what we go off of. But for a men's garment, you're going to want to use the shoulder to shoulder measurement. If for some reason you have the shoulder to shoulder measurement and the chest measurement is bigger, you can go off of that. But make sure to measure those shoulders to see if their shoulders are broader and wider than the chest. So that is my biggest tip for choosing size. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. I also recommend you check out that sizing guide, and I will link it in the description. So for an example, this is a size large, the sample that I have made. My husband wore it for the pictures. He's the one in the pictures. He is, if I measure his chest circumference, if I go off of that, he is a size small. But I have made the mistake of making him a size small, and it does not fit him in the shoulders and the arms and the back area. This is a size large. This is what his shoulder to shoulder measurement fits into. Like it goes into it's within that size large measurement. So that is what I make him when I make these sweaters. And the fit is great. Not too big, but also just fits his shoulders perfectly and the rest of his body. It just looks proportional and fits really well, as you can see in the photos. All right. So now that we are done talking about sizing, like I said, if you have any questions, let me know on that and I'll be happy to help. Let's do a gauge swatch so I can show you how the stitches work out to get this beautiful like vertical lines that you see here in the body of the sweater. All right, we're going to work our gauge swatch for the pattern so I can show you how the rows work and show you what it's going to look like on the in the sweater. So for our gauge swatch, we are going to start by chaining 20. 1, 2, 3. All right, I've got 20 chains and I am going to do a half double crochet in the second chain from my hook and across. So I like to work into the back bump. And I'm just going to do 1 half double crochet in each chain. Oops. And I should have 19 half double crochet at the end of my row. All right, I've worked 19 half double crochet and now I'm ready for row 2. So row 2 is going to be another row of regular half double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch across for 19 stitches. All right, I've got row 2 finished. It's another row of half double crochet and we're ready to move on to row 3. So for row 3 is when we get into our extended half double crochet stitches, and we're going to be working this row in the third loop of our half double crochet stitches from row 2. So how you do that is you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. Your third loop is going to be facing you here. So we've got 2 loops up top. See, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Back loop, or this would be our front loop because it's closest to us, and this would be our back loop. And then we've got this horizontal bar right here on the back side of our half double crochets. That's what we're going to work into. So we're doing an extended half double crochet stitch here, and the pattern has a link to that, a tutorial for that one. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that horizontal bar that you see right there. Yarn over, pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. You're not working into any of the top 2 loops, just that 1 loop. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through 1 loop, and then you have 3 loops on your hook again. Yarn over and pull through all 3. So we're working only into that horizontal bar in the third loop. So yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. And we're doing an extended half double. And we're going to do that all the way across, just working in that third loop. And then for the last one, you can work it in both loops at the top, just to give it so there's no big gap or anything right there. So I've completed my extended half double crochets. Now I am ready to do row 4, which is also extended half doubles. So chain 1 and turn. And as you can see here, working into that third loop brought those 2 top loops towards the front and gives it a really nice, almost knit look texture here. And so that creates your vertical bars where you see in the sweater. So our rows for the sweater is going to be the length of our sweater. So if you need to add length to your sweater or have less length, that's how you would change it. You would change your number of stitches, working in a multiple of 2 for your starting chain so that you have an odd number of stitches to start. And then you would work your pattern the same way. The number of rows is what's going to create our width. So that's why it looks vertical in the sweater, because you're working the length this way. All right, so row 4 is 1 extended half double crochet in each stitch across, and we're working in both loops of the top 2 loops that we would normally work in. So I'm going to do 1 extended half double in each stitch across. All right, we've completed row 4, and this is what it looks like. It will be vertical like this in the pattern. And now for row 5, we're back to regular half double crochet stitches. So it says chain 1, turn our work, work 1 half double crochet in each stitch across. Your half double crochets are both loops. All rows are both loops except for the rows that say to work in the third loop. Those will say in the pattern in the third loop. So the rest you will know to work into your top 2 loops, both loops. All right, we've completed row 5. And now what we're going to be doing is repeating rows 2 through 5 across. So that will be for rows 6 through 13 of our gauge swatch. We're going to repeat rows 2 through 5. So row 2 is another row of half double crochet in each stitch across. And then the rest, the next 2 are the extended half double and back to our half double. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat rows 2 through 5 till I get to row 13, and I will meet you once I get there. All right, I have completed 6 through 13, and then for row 14, it says to repeat row 2. So we're going to do one more row of just half double crochet stitches to finish out our gauge swatch. All right, this is what your gauge swatch will look like. It should measure 4 inches by 4 inches unblocked. But like I said, you're going to want to, I recommend you block your gauge swatch or wash it per the washing instructions of your yarn to see what it does. Like I said earlier, this yarn will expand when it gets wet, but will shrink back to its size in the dryer. So I recommend washing it and then putting in the dryer on low for 10 to 20 minutes, checking it, check the measurements until it gets back to the size it needs to be. Now, when you block your panels, I do recommend it in there to block your panels before you sew them together. I would say to pin them down to measurements and then spray block it. That way it doesn't expand too much. You just want them to match. You want your 2 panels to match. So let me get the sweater sample again, and I'll go over a few more things with you. All right, so as I've mentioned, this is worked in rows. The length of it is in rows. It's so you're working in rows and you're turning it vertically to create the look that it has. So you're going to be working in panels. Your front panel and your back panel are going to work from one side to the other. So for the front panel, you're going to do a certain number of stitches and a certain number of rows, and then you're going to work back up and you're going to stop at a certain point here, and that is where you're going to create your V-neck. And so your V-neck is created with by doing decreases and increases to give it the V-neck, and then you'll work all the way to the other side. You'll add those stitches back and work. That's going to create your shoulders, and you'll see it as you go, as you follow the instructions for the pattern. That's going to be your shoulders, then your V-neck, and then your other shoulders is what you're going to be doing. For the back, you're just working one length all the way across. Then you'll take your front panel, put it on top of your bottom panel, and sew up to the armholes, and sew across the shoulders. And then what you'll do is you will do your sleeves. Sleeves are all extended half double crochet, which is why they don't have that vertical bar going down. There are some decreases, but there's instructions for how to do an extended half double decrease. And then it has a nice ribbed trim on the end. The neckline is the same ribbing trim. What you're going to do for the neckline, and just follow the instructions in the pattern, it'll tell you exactly what to do. You're going to work 2 rows of single crochet just all the way around, in the round, around your neckline and the back and back to the front, and you're going to join here. Then you're going to work, I think it's 7 or 6 stitches here, go back in your back loop only and forward, and it's going to create your ribbing. It's going to start the ribbing, and you just follow the instructions all the way across. You're going to be slip stitching into the edge, into the single crochets you did, and then you're going to do about 5 extra rows at the bottom, and then sew them to your first row of single crochet or slip stitch, however you want to do it. And that's what gives it this nice crossover look. And the neckline is going to look really big when you are making the panel, the front panel, but I promise you once you get that trim in, it's not big at all. So you definitely don't want to worry about that. And then you also have a bottom trim here, same ribbing style. And that's how you do it. That is how you create the Maxwell sweater. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention. We talked about sizing, we talked about gauge, we talked about the third loop, extended half double, the trim. I think that's it. There are pictures in the pattern as well that just show you what each panel looks like, show you a close-up of the neckline trim and getting that done, sewing it here. Yeah, I think that's everything. If you have any questions, I'm always available for pattern support. My email is in the pattern for you to email me if you have any questions or run into any issues. And I will have everything linked in the description for you as far as the yarn, the pattern, the hook, all that. So the ultimate guide to sizing for men, all that. So I think that's everything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up if you like what you see and subscribe to my channel. Have a wonderful day.